This is Margaret in Windsor. That's my real name. I have to go by the name Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married a Childers. By the way, I'm going to mention Laura Childers here. She's my husband's sister. She lives near Austin. It's a kind of a suburb out there. She's lived very nicely since 1980, but getting the truth out of her would be like, in fact, they owned a CPA. Her last name, married name, is Klein. Anyway, I put that up there because hopefully this is all going to be told. 1980, I was almost killed after I had done a medical malpractice book about mind control. Larry Flint was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, while I was doing the book. He later, the person was programmed that shot him. He's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down. The attorney was killed and the judge was pretty much done in. But that's just one of the whole list. And I wrote about the Tesla files where you can cure an illness or create one. They were stolen. Like King Ferdinand, which goes back further than that, the guy was programmed to shoot him and to kill his wife Sophie, to shoot her. So this has been going on, programming people for a long time. The wrong person pays for the crime. And they can also cure illnesses or create them. Heart attacks, cancer, you name it. They can do it. It's done through mind control. And I'm putting this up because I've told about patterns being done. I had a letter from the FBI back in June the 23rd of 1979, ongoing investigation, national security involved. And, of course, at that time, I hadn't learned about my kidnapping and my real name. Then it went on with the FBI and everything there. It went on, and I was almost killed April Fool Day of 80. Illegally taken across the state line to Alabama with a woman that I was kidnapped and put in Moulton, Alabama, a pigsty farm, if you call it that, and given the name of a twin, Peggy Ann Dempsey. And Peggy was killed about a week or 2 weeks before I was put there. Now, Carl was killed about a month. The mother killed them. After birth, they were born in 39, so on the birth certificates, they have marked through the date of birth, and that's illegal for a birth certificate, and replaced it with the date they gave me when I was kidnapped and brought here, which is probably about a year later. Well, a year and a half. Well, no, that's not true. I was 2 years old. I'm thinking of birth. The time they were about a year older than me. So the birth certificates wouldn't match. In the state of Alabama, I mean, it's all like this has just been out there, and who's listening, that you can mark through birth certificates, Carl's and Peggy's, and replace it with the date that they gave me in ink. The state of Alabama did it. So it's like, who's listening to this? Who cares? So now then, where am I here? I did the book, and I was almost killed. I worked for Fred Simpson, the district attorney in Huntsville, Madison County. That's NASA and all that. And sadly, that's when John Lennon was shot by Mark David Chapman, a program shooter. And I want to reference his song, Imagine. This is how mind control works to a degree. I don't know all the ins and outs, and it's more sophisticated now. When I was writing about it in 76, trying to get it published. Here's the deal on it. A lot of it can be made to mimic mental illness, and that's what they're going on. All these people, James Holmes is supposed to be mentally ill. He was put in a mental hospital, given psychotic drugs, which this is a behavior modification done without the person's will. They don't even know it's being done to them. It's done at such a low level. And back when I started finding out, it was done, it could be done through a ham set. I was shown how it could be done through a ham set, teaching the Morse code. So you fast forward from 76 through the technologies, but they made it mimic some of it so that everybody that's committing these mass murders from way back, or single murders, I've got lists, and Jack Hartsfield did, but he's deceased now. He worked for the Huntsville Times. He saved my life. But he was also FBI agent. He was kin to Hank Hartsfield, the astronaut, commander of 2 of the shuttles. Now you got Larry Flint doing an endorsement for president and for U.S. Congress to replace the doctor I wrote about, Larry McDonald, Congressman doctor from Atlanta, who ironically goes down in a KAL was shot down en route from Juneau, Alaska to Seoul, South Korea. Took 260 plus people down with it because the pilot was supposed to have veered into Russian airspace, which it can be under mind control to plow into the side of the mountain or the ocean or whatever, fly into oblivion with 250 aboard. They all died. Now then, on board that flight that was taken off, just before it went off, and supposedly Larry McDonald, Dr. Congressman, was on it. He helped in what happened to me, April Fool Day of 80, and Larry Flint said in the endorsement that he was responsible for his shooting. Him and Murphy and some others down there, but there's more to it than that, believe me. Now, where am I here? I'm telling about that, and I want to get back to Nixon was taken off the plane. He was on that same flight and taken off in Juneau, Alaska. Now I want to get back to this. I have been putting all this up on video and Facebook, and nobody will touch it. People knew about my kidnapping, and I'm not going to put that up again. If you notice, I'm being quiet. This is in the night here, and I have a rough time. I've kept penniless and a pauper and homeless, really. And people didn't want to hear this. None of it. The media doesn't. They already knew about my kidnapping. I'm talking about the Illuminati controlled out of, that controls all your media now out of New York, really. Rockefeller Plaza. They even put it there, Rockefeller Plaza. NBC, but that's why I'm being quiet. I wouldn't want somebody to come and tell me that I have to get out because I'm back here making a video or bothering someone. So I wanted to get to this. I guess I saved it till last, but the Parkland shootings that they're going to have the march to take your guns, somehow it exploded. The press did. They went after that one. So it shows you what people can do when they try. And the media wanted to cover it. But they're to take the guns away. I said right after then, I put all this up on Facebook and YouTube. I said that that should be the last of the shootings, that it should be told, because that connects with Parkland and Dallas, Texas, where Kennedy, JFK, was taken when he was shot. And I'm not going to be redundant. This has to do with Gonzalez and offshoots from, he was at Parkland when Kennedy was brought in there. Kennedy helped in my kidnapping, and the person that shot him was programmed. And I want to get back to John Lennon, his song Imagine. That's how, and I can't tell you all the ends, but they use your imagination without you know it and teach you the Morse code, and they control you. Oh, your behavior's changed and everything. And then he was shot by Mark David Chapman. Now I want to get back to this young fella, Mark Anthony Conditt. And I want to put this in here in if I were typing, like in parentheses. Uh, Gary Conditt, and the spell Mark Anthony Conditt is spelled that way too, but it's spelled different. Cundiff or Conditt, which doesn't matter. The mark is the main clue in it, and the last Conditt starts with a C, and it's in Austin, Texas, and it's the timeline that's being going on with it that connects it all too. But I want to mention Gary Conditt. It's Conditt, the former U.S. House of Representative Democratic that was involved with Chandra Levy, and later they found her in I believe it was a national park up there, and she'd been murdered. This is mind control used in it. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Back to this young man. When I started telling the Parkland shootings in Florida should be the end, I also said that they suddenly start doing the explosives. And I said, it's almost saying to everybody, hey, are you listening? You either tell about the mind control, it's not the mass murders. With guns, you got to address the problem, the mind control, behavior modification. Because the bomb can be placed and take out millions, as you already know in the past. But anyway, this young fella in Austin, by the way, let me get this in. The day, I forgot what happened, the Austin, first of all, what was his name? The shooter up in Maryland at the same time, was his name, his first name was Austin. I think that a few days ago, or a week or so ago, in Maryland, the shooting, then he killed himself, but he shot 2 students, and I think one of them died, so you can look that up. But it's associating like Austin, Texas, and the name Austin, and there's patterns to it. And they do make sense if you get the background on it, and all of it. You can boohoo it all you want to. I hope it's going to be told soon. The thing that really gets me is who was the young man right at the moment? I'm blank on that. I put it up. That was programmed by the U.S. Army. They put a chip up his buttocks, and he blew up the federal building, Murray, in Oklahoma City, the bomb and all that. When they're being programmed, they're programmed by the pros. They know the ins and outs and all of it. And Anthony Snowden just he meant to, and he was brave. I don't mean that. I'll just say this. They shipped him off to Russia. Now, back to this young man, Mark Anthony Conditt. He blew himself up, or he was programmed to. He's a puppet. He's programmed. He blew himself up the other day, so now they think they were done with him and the FedEx bombings. And by the way, FedEx, that name has something to do in all this in the timeline, and his name, Mark. From all accounts, it's almost like they're showing you the people doing the programming. From all indications, this was a young man who had no mental problems. Well, they program the mental problems into you like they did the Parkland in Florida, young man Cruz. So it all nobody wants to question it. It's not their kid that's going to blow himself up or be put in prison on death row or whatever. As long as it doesn't touch them, it's not that they don't believe it, they do this. So anyway, his background is that he's a nice, decent chap, and I imagine he was. This whole thing was programmed in, and that's why the detail and everything is so perfect. The programmers are good at their craft and skill at programming. And it's very sad, but sad is the way I've been treated, because I was kidnapped, and who my dad is an honest man, and he has been so character assassination. What's been done to me and my sons Mark and Scott here in this country. My mom was born in Madison, Wisconsin. She's an American. I'm British, and it's who my father is, and he married my mom. He wasn't married to Wallace Simpson. It was a takedown because he wouldn't go along with the Illuminati, and they took a king down, and then they kidnapped his only daughter, heir to the crown, and that'd be me. And brought me over here when I was 2 years old, at age 2. And I found out about it in late '83, and started finding out. I worked for doctors about, and I was finding out about mind control, and started writing about it. But there's lists, and I've tried to put it up on Facebook and everything. But it's almost like in this one with this young man, they're showing you his. There's not that many flaws, if any, in this young man. He was a nice man, his family and everything, and he'll go down in history if you don't tell. If you don't force the media to tell the truth in Congress. His name's going to go down as he's a killer and he's deranged and all this, even though his background doesn't show it. So what really set me off was I was listening to Coast to Coast a few minutes ago, and one of the people that helps George Norrie he comes in at the first and tells some things. So he's not just a guest or anything. I think he actually works for them, like Linda Moulton Howe does. But his statement about this young man was he had a screw loose. It could be this very man that made those statements that was programmed, but for the grace of God or whoever you want to, it could have been him. Just like a pilot can be programmed to take a plane down, or the air marshal that you put in there or in the schools to protect your kids, they can come out shooting and blow your guts out. And I want to go back to the Parkland in Florida. The one they gave, by the way, this is done like, let me say this, I'm thinking of Scott Kelly and Mark Kelly. They're twins, astronauts. By the way, they just said Scott's DNA was changed while he was in space. The twins has something to do with all this too. But Mark Kelly was married to Congresswoman Gabby Gifford, and there was a shooting in Tucson, Arizona, and this was a program shooting done in patterns. And she's for taking the guns away, which has nothing to do with it any more than the bomb does. So I guess I'm going to quit because I'm it's the middle of the night and I'm having a rough time, and I'm really afraid to do a video because people around here, they all know who I am. There's no doubt about my real name or anything. It's it's odd how I'm treated, and I get on Facebook and I'm watching people, or not watching, but have supposedly friends on Facebook that are gun-ho for Elizabeth. She's illegal, and I'm going to quit on that. I've put it all up. They took my father down, and they're war criminals, Elizabeth and her whole bunch, Charles, etc. And I hear how people love them and think they're beautiful. And here I am in my rags that they stole everything from my father, me, my children, Mark and Scott. So if I'm rambling a bit, I think I deserve to be able to ramble a bit. They're using mental health to shut people up and call them crazy. This young man needs his name cleared. And I can remember when they did that to me in